Would you be satisfied if you were ranked fifth in the world in your sport? Today's guest isn't. Eli Hemming joins me to talk about the pursuit of excellence. Although 2023 will go down as a great season for him, this ex-pro ITU triathlete is starting the 2024 trail running season off as an unstoppable force. He's already notched big wins and course records at the Black Canyon 60K and the Big Alta 50K, but this is only the beginning for him. How has this professional ITU triathlete so successfully transitioned to the trail and ultra running scene? We discuss this, his unconventional training life as a cowboy in the mountains of Colorado, and how he's added lever as a training tool to increase his leg speed and turnover while training at 8,000 feet. Spoiler alert, you're going to want to add this weekly lever run to your training. I've been adding it to my training over the past few weeks, and I have to say, it's keeping me sharp and fresh for the rest of my weekly training. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. So Eli, I was thinking about this. I know you're obviously a very recognizable name, but you also have a lot of pseudonyms like floating around out there, like Thick Cortado, the Gargantuan Gibraltar, the Kremlin Cowboy. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So honestly, I have a Strava account that's just named Thick Cortado. Me and Tabor have one, my wife. And it is purely like we use it to help with our coaching business. So honestly, my training doesn't really get put up there every once in a while. Like everything's auto uploaded, but it's set to private, but I'm too lazy to go in and like make it public.
Yep.
So yes, I have the pseudonym Thick Cortado, and it was made off of my wife made a joke that her name was White Latte because she is a little pale. She's a ginger. And so I had to come back with, okay, well, I'm Thick Cortado.
That's because you're super thick, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Thick boy here.
That's good. Well, I feel like we could almost spend the entire episode on just going through these names and like trying to understand them a bit more. I did make up the Kremlin Cowboy. I know you're technically a cowboy, which we can dive into here in a little bit, but Kremlin Cowboy just had a good ring to it. So not sure if
that sounds good.
Before.
I can stick with that. I like that.
Awesome. Well, to kick this podcast off, I wanted to, start off with one question that we're going to start off with on every single one of these podcasts. And really comes down to the sport, hobby, the lifestyle of running. And honestly, there's nothing easy, and if I'm honest, glamorous about running. So I really just wanted to dive into like, what is your why behind why you run?
Well, I mean, at the base, I love being outdoors, and I love the lifestyle of getting out and being outside all day, every day. And so this is kind of my excuse to do that, but I also love the pursuit of excellence in that. And so I love putting up with the monotony to better myself to be a good runner.
That's good. Have you always had the desire and the pursuit of excellence, or has that been like once you got into sports? Or
I'd say I found that in sports, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to then just kind of park there for a little bit. I know you've been a really competitive athlete for most of your life, but just kind of talking about the last decade or so, what has your kind of athletic life looked like?
Yeah. So I started out my career as a triathlete. I was, well, pretty much since I was like 6 or 7 years old, I was a triathlete. Kind of went up through the youth and junior elite ranks, racing draft legal triathlon. And so I stepped away from that to go to school for college to go run. Didn't really like it. Wanted to be outside more. Wanted to go do the lifestyle that I'm kind of still trying to pursue now, which is professional athlete. And so I stepped away from college, started doing school online, and went to be a professional triathlete. And so I spent 6 years traveling around the world as a professional ITU triathlete.
No, that's great. And honestly, a lot of our customers are triathletes as well, ranging from, the short distance all the way up to Ironman. I mean, what did that triathlon world look like for you? Obviously, 3 sports, it's a lot of time training, a lot of time traveling. What did your time in triathlon look like?
It was a lot of training. With my pursuit of excellence idea is I I wanted, and I had big ambitious goals of being one of the best. And so to do that, with my ability level, it was basically I was forced to train about 30 to 35 hours a week. And when you train 30 to 35 hours a week, you don't really do much else. I kind of went into the recluse mode. I was training excessively. Then I'd go back, eat something, rest, and go back and train more. So I wouldn't say it was the most fulfilling life. And so this is kind of where I went over to trail running to find a little bit more fulfillment. But I, my first year as a professional triathlete, I think I was at home, like my parents' house for 2 weeks. Every other moment was spent traveling somewhere, racing somewhere. And it was that way pretty full force until COVID hit.
Mm. Was there like a certain, I mean, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but was there a certain reason why you, like a tipping point, or the reason why you stepped away from being a professional athlete or triathlete?
Yeah, honestly, I felt that the way that I was doing sport and the way that I wanted to do that, and I felt that I needed to do it, was like, well, in goals of trying to be one of the best in the world, I was training so much that I didn't have a life outside of training. I didn't have time for friends and family, and to do really anything else. So I kind of found that when COVID hit, it's a big epiphany moment for everybody, I think, and for the better or worse of a lot of people. And I definitely think mine was for the better. But I found that I really got more attached to my now wife, Tabor. I spent a lot of time with my family, and it was kind of, okay, well, I don't think I want to travel to the same 10 races every single year for the next 4-year block, well, 3-year Olympic cycle, because it was with COVID. I don't want to go for another 4 years of just head on the grindstone, like actually like pushing 30-hour weeks and not pursuing other things in life. So kind of stepped away from that so I could pursue coaching, pursue my life with Tabor, my life with my family. And so kind of just opened up because I am not able to run 30 hours a week.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then with that, even like 30 to 35 hours a week, did your body break down at all, or were you a pretty resilient triathlete?
Overall, relatively resilient. I spent a lot of time on the bike, so that's an easy way to hide overuse injuries. But I did my fair share. Kind of one of the tipping points of why I didn't end up pushing and qualifying for Tokyo was a stress reaction in my foot, kind of at the worst time possible. But I mean, I don't think that changes anything. It was overall, I think there's not too much overtraining, just under recovering. A classic one of those. So I do like training a lot, and I still train quite a bit, but that extra 10 hours a week is very nice.
Yeah. So I guess you're alluding to you're training around 20 hours a week now instead of the 30, 35 that you were doing as a triathlete.
Yes, I see. So it's still quite a bit of training, and I'm still pursuing excellence in sport.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it in a different level, and I'm focusing more on recovery and my relationships as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then also just like, so going from the triathlon world to the ultra world, like what ultimately, I should say trail world, sub ultra, but what drew you to the trail scene? Did you grow up running trails? Like, do you have prior experience with it, or?
I ran a lot of trails. I wouldn't say I really I didn't know that was a thing, racing trails. I ran quite a few trails just because I really enjoyed running. And then Tabor, my wife, took me to a random trail race in Buena Vista, and it was held by Jason Schlarb. I talked to him just recently. I told him, like, dude, you're the reason we started this. But yeah, it was kind of just like we had that a little epiphany moment while we were there. Like, this is so much fun. Like, what if we just kind of became trail running vagabonds? That'd be so
Mm.
much fun. So that was kind of the start of that. It was just a random trail race that we just hopped in out of the blue.
Well, and so, again, if I have my timeline right, you kind of retired from the professional triathlon world around 2021
Mm-hmm.
and then jumped pretty much full steam ahead into trail. Did you take any time off, or was it just straight into the trail scene?
It was pretty much just straight in. It was kind of one of those things. Like I was trying to decide what to do. I knew I was kind of done with draft legal triathlon, and so my obvious choice was I could be like a 70.3 Ironman distance racer, and I think I could have done very well at that. But I just didn't know if I wanted to continue that lifestyle fully. And that's when we did try one trail race, and it was kind of like, wow, that's really fun, and that really could change my life. And I think that was really the tipping point, is a single race on trails. The community there is amazing.
Well, and what I love about what you did, and again, it kind of goes back to pursuing excellence, right? You jumped straight into the trail scene, and then within 2 years, last year you were ranked fifth fastest or fifth ranked Golden Trail World Series athlete. I mean, talk to me about that, like, transition a bit. Like, when you got into the trail scene, like, did it feel foreign to you, or did it feel like you were kind of right at home where you belonged?
Yeah, honestly, there was a ton of learning that needed to happen very quickly. But I am a learn by doing kind of guy. And so, honestly, the thing that I needed to learn the most was trail skill, how to fuel during races, all of that, little things that go into trail racing. But overall, I started at such a high point, aerobic and fitness wise, that I was able to hop in pretty well and kind of fudge my way through a lot of trail races. I could go to those smoother trails, and like I'd be one of the faster guys. So this last like 2 years that I've been running now has been just learning how I've honestly let the fitness side of it down a little bit, so I could focus on how to be a good technical runner, learn the intricacies of the sport. And now that I think I'm kind of at a good point, I'm trying to build back my running ability. And I think if I have good technical ability and good running ability, that meets together for a very good runner, very good trail athlete.
Yeah. So really, before going any further here, do you mind describing just kind of briefly what the sub ultra world is, what the Golden Trail World Series is, for our listeners?
Yeah. So the sub ultra is just anything underneath a marathon and down. You can have anything from I've done races in Chamonix that are a marathon, or slightly over, but they still consider it a marathon, a heavy marathon, if you will. Um, and then I've also done like 10Ks that are just straight up the side of a mountain and straight back down, which I'm not sure those ones are for me, but people do love them, and there's something special about just absolutely hucking yourself down the side of a mountain and hoping for the best. And the Golden Trail Series is kind of where the peak of and the pinnacle of that sport is. They put together a series of races that kind of accumulate, and they finish off in a final. So you have series points, you qualify for the final, and then you have final that has extra amount of points. And so you have like a series ranking, everything. And it's just an amazing series.
Well, what's neat about this too is, so you're still traveling the world. So,
Yes.
That part hasn't changed. But you're getting to do it with your wife now, which
Yes.
brings a lot more purpose and to the whole sport side of things, which is
Absolutely
awesome.
it does.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And so, from last year, finishing fifth, like, what are some of the goals that you have going into this year?
So honestly, with me being so young in the sport, I am doing a little searching this year. I have done now 2 full years racing Golden Trail races. So I'm actually stepping a little bit outside of the Golden Trail, because I know what's there. and I'm going to try some races that I don't know what's happening, and maybe try some slight short ultras if that's a thing. I'm going to try those kind of 50, 60 Ks, maybe even play with like 100K at the end of the year. To be determined on that one, but kind of focusing on something that's a little bit longer, so I can focus on learning how to fuel and all the other things that go with that, and see how I like it. And I'll probably be back to the Golden Trail, but I also might find a happy home somewhere else.
Well, I can already say I had a front row seat to knowing how good you are already stepping up in distance to the 60K. Eli and I raced a couple weeks ago at the Black King 60K. It's hard to say that we raced each other. I didn't see him the entire race, but no, Eli went out first place, massive course record. So you stepped up in distance pretty smoothly there.
Thank you so much. That was a fun one. That we were kind of talking a little bit before. My legs felt all that downhill. It was a net downhill race for 60 kilometers, and I don't know if my legs were quite prepared for that one. My energy systems were all good on that one, but then finishing the race and getting immediately in the car and driving 6 hours was not a good idea.
Yeah, sitting in a car for 6 hours after you run a 60K, not the recipe that you're looking for success, right? No, that's great. And so I would love to kind of chat real quick as we're going here, just around, you guys lived in the Boulder area for a little bit, moved up to, the mountains of Colorado up in Kremling. What has like training looked like as you've moved up now that you're living and breathing at 8,000 feet all the time?
It's been hard to actually acclimate to that. It's really difficult because you do get slow up here. So yeah, we made the move up year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. And honestly, the biggest hurdle has been trying to remember how to run quickly. You get really fit, but I went from, and I mean, like I talked about earlier, I did kind of let up on the fitness side of things, and so I could focus on the technicalities that come with trail running. But in that, I also feel like I got slower from being at altitude all the time. So we're kind of planning some sea level blocks that we can go remember how to run quickly.
Get the turnover back in the legs.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, too, I mean, you definitely have the turnover. I know we should have said this when I just mentioned Black Canyon, but for 60K, so almost 38 miles, you average what, 6:34 pace? Is that right? For 38 miles? Still had 3,000 feet of climbing, so it wasn't all downhill. But no, you definitely have the turnover there for sure. So what does kind of day-to-day training look like for you guys? Is it exclusively running? Are you building in, other cross training into the week? What does your running look like?
Yeah, so I am coming from that triathlon background. I am super into cross training, and I still love riding my bike. I don't swim anymore, but I do love riding my bike. Right now we have quite a bit of snow, so riding my bike, I'm a fair weather rider. So I'll ski all winter, put a lot of time in there, which I'll do like skimo type skiing or Nordic skiing. And then we'll get our quality runs in on the treadmill. Usually our dirt roads are so covered in ice and snow that running quickly is kind of a dangerous game. Like we both ended up a couple years ago with some slight tears in our labrum because of slipping. So we've accepted the treadmill life. And so when we're doing quality, we're trying to make sure that it is quality. So we go to the treadmill. We still do easy runs outside, but right now it's a lot of skiing and a little bit of running.
Got it. Yeah. And would you say that Nordic skiing translates fairly well to running?
I don't really think so. Overall, like I think it's fitness wise, absolutely. Nordic skiing is super hard, but it doesn't really help specificity wise. It's not going to make you a faster runner. It might make you a fitter runner, which helps a lot in when you get to that kind of ultra distance. And we use it more as a fitness and getting out type thing instead of actually to specifically aid our running.
Okay. I mean, is it fair to say though that like in the winter, your skiing is what your cycling is in the summer?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Honestly, we'll probably put in more time skiing than we will riding, just because there's only so much running I want to do on the snow covered roads or on the treadmill. Um, but we are doing more running on the treadmill and on the snowy roads. But we do a lot more hours skiing than we do running right now.
Yeah. And so, I mean, usually people at that 1%, top 1% in the world, have a lot of people like looking at their training, obviously a lot of people in their corner, like you guys have, you and your wife has started, is it coaching each other or self-coaching, but letting the spouse be the consultant over the coaching? How's your coaching dynamics these days?
There is no specific, I'm coaching her, she's coaching me, or I'm coaching myself and she's bringing in notes. It's just kind of a flowing, like we sat down and like say, okay, we need this. And we figured out together of, okay, but what do you think about if we add this in here for you? We're very different athletes coming from very different backgrounds. She's fast. I'm aerobic guy. And so it's coming from such different backgrounds that we do need such different things in our training. But I think we kind of level each other out, and she wants to just do 1 minute intervals all the time. And I want to just do tempo runs all the time. So I think it's a happy medium that we work together well. But then we kind of have some resident smart people that we go to for questions. If we have like a specific question that we don't know the answer to, or just want to kind of take a poll. Like when we were originally talking to you, I had like 4 different questions out to 4 different smart people, and they're like, what do you think about like training with the lever? Like, is this something that would help me do this or achieve this when I want to? And so that's kind of how we actually started before I talked to you.
Well, I mean, let's jump into it then, right? Let's jump into it. So we've known each other for, almost 2 months now. So not super long, but you've incorporated the lever system for maybe almost that whole time since we've met each other. Pretty much
since we picked it up from you. We've been trying to incorporate it.
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of alluded to something earlier on how you're using it around trying to get some leg speed back. But I mean, maybe just kind of give us an overview, like how, since you grab the unit, like how are you starting to use the lever system in incorporating it in your training?
Yeah, so we've kind of been using it a little bit for steady runs. And the steady runs is kind of a weird, kind of going like zone 2 type effort. Whereas like when you get fitter and fitter, zone 2 gets really, really fast. Like that zone 2 is kind of hard to run at if you're trying to stay in that upper end zone 2. And it hurts the body. You can do it on the bike all day long, but running, you can only do so much of it. So we were just kind of doing a little bit of that in the build up, just because we're kind of in a base phase. We're not really changing a whole lot. We're just kind of learning how to run a little bit quicker again. So we've been adding in these steady days where we'll say, I don't want to call it a tempo. It's kind of a tempo. People use the word tempo all over the place. It is kind of just like that, staying right below your first lactate turn point. And we will spend like an hour. Say I can typically range between 5:45 and 5:30 pace. But I'll stay below my first lactate turn point and I will feel pretty fresh the next day. The first 4 weeks doing it was neuromuscularly draining, and I'd get off and I'd be like, I need to go take a nap.
Yeah.
So like, honestly, we've been using it to try to offset the slowness that we get from altitude. I think when we get into the summer, I want to try some workouts on it, but I don't know what that looks like yet. With it being pretty new in our training regimen, we'll play with it a lot for sure, but I'm not sure where it's gonna land on our happy training.
Yeah, I think the good thing, at least from what I know about you and Tabor, you're fairly durable athletes, and so you have the luxury to not have to use it for injury recovery at the moment, right? And knock on wood, and it will not have to. But it's neat to see that you are experimenting with it in different overspeed type workouts. And so you said like 4 weeks of it. It took about 4 weeks for it to start feeling more natural. Is that what you were alluding to earlier?
Yeah, it was just such a foreign moment. I honestly, last year, I barely dipped under 5 minute pace very often. And I feel like I've kind of gotten back to where I can do that relatively comfortably. Whereas in my triathlon days, I was doing that quite regularly. But I think that is due to I live at 8,000 feet and I train at 8,000 feet. If I want to get down to 5 or 6,000 feet, I got to drive a couple hours. And I can't get down lower than that.
Yeah.
So we're using it as a altitude adjustment.
No, that's pretty neat, and that's the neat thing that we've been able to see, and we've done some research with the product too, right? So if you can take 10% of your body weight off, you can run 30 seconds per mile faster at the same heart rate. And so just being able to turn over your legs at a pace that is still comfortable, right? Like you're still 5:30 to 5:45 is very quick, but it's comfortable for you guys, and especially if you can remove 10% of your body weight to hit those numbers. You're really reducing kind of the pounding going forward into your next workouts as well.
Yeah. And I think that's what we found is we can do that. And then not very long later, like a couple days or even the next day, we can do a workout. Not that I think that's necessarily the best, but we can do a workout the next day because we are not so trashed from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really cool, and it's a great use case too. That's how I'm using the system a lot myself. I ran 8 mile steady on it yesterday at an okay pace, and I doubled yesterday afternoon, and I ran again this morning. I felt awesome. And it's like it doesn't take anything away from you, although you are hitting the paces that you want to hit.
Right.
It
No,
helps you keep
I think
building.
it's a great addition. Not something that like I'd want to take away my training to do, but I want to keep all my sessions, but something that I can add in, even if I can just add in a few miles here, a few miles there. I think that'd be really beneficial.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, that's great. And so real quick, then just moving from that to the rest of the season. So mentioned kind of not focusing on the Golden Trail World Series as much this year. Are you able to share with us what races that you have coming up?
Yeah. So actually tomorrow we're headed down to Boulder, and we're flying to California for Big Alta, another 50K, which is a little bit close together, but
2 weeks.
yeah,
2 weeks
2 weeks.
turnaround.
But after that, have a little training block, kind of do focus on Canyons 50K. But the big race of the year is OCC, the 55K. And so kind of all things are building up to that, kind of trying to throw in a few 50Ks before that so that I know that I'm as prepared as I can be. I have my nutrition on lock and I know kind of how I want to pace it, how I want to do all those things. So that's why I'm throwing in a couple 50Ks right away. Got another one on the horizon in April, and then just building up all the way to OCC.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, how can we follow along with the rest of your season? Is there a great place to go to?
Yeah. So me and Tabor are actually just starting a YouTube channel, which we are trying to become more more consistent with. And it's just called The Hemmings. I think the little tag is at The Hemmings Run. Or you can just follow us on Instagram. Definitely less on there. But I think it's just Eli _Hemming, and I think Tabor's Tabor_Hemming.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll absolutely link to those as well. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Wishing you the best of luck the rest of the season. Really excited to see how you perform. Like I said, from the gun at Black Canyon, I didn't see you the rest of the race, so I know you're fit, and you're going to shake some things up on the world stage. So I'm excited to watch how it goes down.
Oh, really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, Eli. Thanks for listening to today's episode. As we kick off season 2 of the podcast, please review this episode and share it with your community on social media. It would help us a ton. And if you would like to learn more about Lever, check us out at levermovement.com.